This isn't just a comparison between two engines. It's a hidden war that spanned decades, one shaped by engineering secrets, stolen designs, and even covert involvement from the US government. The Chevy 283 V8 and Ford 289 V8, compact in size, yet powerful enough to shift the balance. One pioneered fuel injection in the late 1950s. The other became the heart of racing machines that made Ferrari bow down. But behind the published numbers lies a hidden truth. Automakers deliberately underrated specs, limited production, and quietly supported chosen racers to keep real technology under wraps. These weren't just engines. They were weapons in a Cold War-era tech battle. And today, we're diving into forgotten files, uncovering the truth Detroit never wanted you to know. In 1955, Chevrolet dropped a technical bomb with their 265 cubic inch small block V8, compact, powerful, and easy to mass produce. But that was just the opening shot. Just 2 years later, in 1957, the engine evolved into the 283 cubic inch version, and that's when the game truly changed. Chevy didn't just up the displacement, they unleashed a secret weapon, the Rochester Ramjet fuel injection system, the first of its kind on a mass-produced American car. The result? 283 horsepower, exactly 1 horsepower per cubic inch. It sounded like a marketing gimmick, but it was a declaration of war. But that wasn't the whole truth. Internal GM documents show the Fuelie actually made 315 to 320 horsepower. So why underrate it? Former GM marketing director William Harley admitted, "We couldn't let the public know how powerful it really was. Insurance companies would crush us, and federal regulators were already circling." Beyond raw power, the 283 featured thin-wall casting, shaving nearly 50 pounds off compared to traditional blocks. Its simple valve train, with stamped rocker arms, delivered high efficiency while keeping manufacturing costs low. In other words, the 283 wasn't just an engine. It was a technological punch that shook the entire American auto industry. The moment the 283rd shook the market, Ford knew they couldn't sit idle. Inside the company, it was described as a blow to their pride and a wake-up call. Former engineer Thomas Reynolds recalled that when Chevy's 283s hit the streets, Ford executives nearly had a collective heart attack. Their aging Y-block V8 suddenly looked obsolete, even in their own showrooms. And so, a top-secret initiative was launched, Project Phoenix. With an unlimited budget and one single objective, surpass Chevrolet at all costs, Ford's engineers entered an ambitious technological race. 3 years later, in 1963, they unveiled the 289 cubic inch V8. On paper, the high-performance K code was rated at 271 horsepower. But the truth lived on the dyno, where numbers frequently exceeded 300 horsepower, especially in race spec and Shelby versions. In terms of design, the 289 introduced major advancements. A shorter stroke made it quick revving, while an improved oiling system allowed it to survive at high RPMs. Its canted valve heads and wide flow ports delivered efficiency rivaling race engines costing 10 times more. Chevy may have fired the first shot, but it was Ford who turned this into a technological crusade, where they weren't just aiming to win, but to settle the score. On paper, both engines were small block V8s with just a 6 cubic inch difference. But beneath the metal lay two entirely different design philosophies. The Chevy 283 used a 3.875-inch bore and a 3.0-inch stroke, a near-square configuration that delivered smooth torque across the mid-range. What truly stood out was its pioneering thin-wall casting, making it nearly 50 pounds lighter than other blocks of the era. Chevy's stamped steel rocker arms, simple yet highly efficient, reduced friction and kept manufacturing costs down while maintaining durability. In contrast, the Ford 289 featured a larger 4.00-inch bore and a shorter 2.87-inch stroke. This over-square setup gave it excellent high RPM capability, perfect for drag racing and road courses. Ford also employed a canted valve head design with optimized intake and exhaust flow, producing airflow efficiency close to that of purpose-built race engines. When it came to lubrication, Ford led the way with a smarter oiling system that allowed sustained, high RPM performance without pressure drops. Chevy's setup was more traditional, effective, but with less headroom for high-performance upgrades. If the 283 was an intelligent minimalist machine built for mass production and surprising power, the 289 was a raw diamond, precision-tuned for racing glory. Yet as these engineering platforms began to deliver power far beyond expectations, both GM and Ford faced a strange paradox. Too much success became a dangerous problem. In 1959, General Motors abruptly discontinued the fuel-injected 283, even though the technology worked perfectly and demand kept rising. The official reason? Production costs were too high. But a confidential memo revealed the real concern. The engine was allowing Chevrolet to outperform Oldsmobile and Buick, GM's higher-tier brands. "We can't let a Chevy overshadow the company's flagship products," one executive wrote. Ford wasn't any different. Despite the K-code 289 being the heart of the Shelby Mustang, the company imposed strict limits on how many were distributed. Some states received just 5 engines per year, even with month-long wait lists. One dealer recalled, "When I complained, the regional manager said, if Ford builds too many high-performance cars, the government will come knocking." In the 1960s, fear didn't come from competitors. It came from regulators and internal brand hierarchies. Instead of promoting their strongest engines, both companies chose to restrict and bury them. So, when the automakers couldn't publicly unleash the full power of the 283 and 289 on civilian markets, they turned to another battleground: racing. For Chevrolet, the 283, especially the fuel-injected version, quickly proved itself on major stages like NASCAR and NHRA. But just as it began to dominate, the 1957 AMA racing ban was suddenly announced. Coincidentally, it came right as Chevy was pulling ahead. Internal NASCAR records later revealed that Ford executives had applied pressure, threatening to pull advertising contracts unless Chevrolet was reined in. In drag racing, the 283 continued to shock. Junior Johnson's small block cars regularly beat machines with engines over 100 cubic inches larger. After a nearly perfect season, his engine mysteriously disappeared during tech inspection. Years later, a former NHRA tech official admitted, "Its cylinder heads were cast from alloys we'd never seen in civilian use, materials that didn't appear until the 1980s. General Motors was clearly testing military-grade metals in cars disguised as production models. On Ford's side, the 289 became a global icon through the Shelby Cobra and GT40, machines that humiliated Ferrari at Le Mans. But according to former mechanic Frank Morris, those 289s only looked like the production version on the outside. Inside was a world of custom cams, hand-ported heads, forged pistons and cranks. none of which appeared in any official catalog. Declassified records even show that Ford's racing program received covert support from the US government as part of Cold War-era technological demonstrations. The 283 and 289 weren't just engines. And as the glory of the racetrack faded into history, these engines, once secret weapons, became coveted collector treasures. A Chevrolet Corvette equipped with a numbers-matching 283 Fi can be valued at over $150,000, while an original Ford Mustang K-Code frequently breaks six figures at major auctions. But behind those staggering prices lies a reality most don't want to face. Over 35% of these so-called originals are actually forgeries. Authentication expert Richard Townsend warns, original casting codes and VINs are now widely circulated. Some forgers even use recast alloys and high-end cold stamping techniques to pass standard inspections. With Ford, the issue is even murkier. They often change specs mid-production without updating public documentation. Even veteran engineers can't say for sure if a given 289 block is a true K-code example. Chevrolet was somewhat better, but the 1966 fire at the St. Louis plant wiped out almost all records of their high-performance models, creating a perfect void for counterfeits to thrive. Today, many buyers spend hundreds of thousands on what they believe to be a legend. But beyond the repainted clones and forged tags, what keeps the 283 and 289 alive isn't a number on a block. It's the technical legacy they left behind. For Chevrolet, the 283 marked the dawn of a new era in engine manufacturing. Its thin-wall casting method reduced weight while maintaining strength, paving the way for modern small-block architecture. The 283's simple yet effective valve train would evolve into the LS family, now powering millions of high-performance vehicles around the world. Ford's 289 followed a different philosophy: efficiency and precision. With its canted valve heads, improved oiling system, and the ability to make big power from small displacement, the 289 laid the groundwork for the idea of less is more. Those principles later shaped the Coyote DOHC V8, still used in modern Mustangs today. More impressively, even Japanese automakers took notice. One Toyota engineer admitted, "We had cut away 283 and 289 engines in our development center. The mission was simple: understand why they worked and build something better." More than 50 years later, the engineering DNA of these two engines still pulses through every performance machine, from America to Germany to Japan. They weren't just lumps of iron. They were the original blueprint for modern performance. So in the end, which engine truly deserves the crown? The Chevy 283. Bold, groundbreaking, a symbol of American engineering pushing the limits. It was the first engine to achieve 1 horsepower per cubic inch, using fuel injection at a time when most believed it was impossible. And yet, it was quietly suppressed because its power exceeded what Chevrolet was allowed to deliver within GM's brand hierarchy. The Ford 289, refined, reliable, and the beating heart of machines that toppled Ferrari at Le Mans. On paper, just a small block. But in the hands of Carroll Shelby and the best engine builders in America, it became a strategic weapon, both on the racetrack and in the Cold War tech race. The answer may never be absolute. Every car enthusiast will have their favorite. But one thing is clear: both engines changed the course of mechanical history forever. And what about you? Do you lean toward the raw aggression of the 283 or the precise sharpness of the 289? Have you driven one, rebuilt one, or simply stood in awe before one? Share your story in the comments, because sometimes it's personal memories that define a legend best. If you found this video worthwhile, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because there are still many buried truths in the world of engines waiting to be uncovered.